Treasure hunting. For me, these two words inspire dreams of gold doubloons from old shipwrecks and hunting down that long-lost pirate treasure. For some people, it may be combing their favorite beach for lost jewelry and coins. Hi, I'm Joe Cadero, along with Bob Afaro. Welcome to a video guide to beach and water hunting. In this video, Bob and I will be demonstrating many techniques to help you become successful beach hunters. Whether you're an experienced beach hunter or new to this fun and potentially profitable side of this great hobby, we're sure you'll enjoy the show.
Bob, how'd you get started beach hunting?
Well, Joe, a good friend of mine was always showing me these incredible pieces of jewelry he was finding at the local beaches. And he would always say to me, Bob, you better hurry up and get your water hunting equipment and get your share of the treasure before I find it all. You know, he probably would have, too. So that convinced me. And Joe, I'll tell you, when I finally found my first gold ring, I was hooked. And water detecting has been my passion ever since.
Yeah, why is it that so much jewelry is lost in the water?
Well, one of the first things that people do when they get onto the beach is they put suntan lotion on. The suntan lotion actually acts as a lubricant. And when the people finally get up to go in the water to play ball or frisbee or whatever, the water can cause the finger to shrink a little bit. And the shrinkage of the finger, accompanied with the suntan lotion, makes it very easy for a ring to slip off. And once that ring hits the water and nestles into the sand, it's gone.
True. Gone until we come along with our metal detector and find it.
Exactly.
And it's not so bad in increasing our pull tab and junk collection as well.
And it also gives us a chance to help clean up the environment. Let's go over some of the equipment used for beach and water hunting. First of all, your metal detector. My detector of choice is this PI, or pulse induction unit. And what pulse induction does is it shoots a rapid pulsating signal into the ground, and this signal cancels out the naturally occurring mineralization found in salt water and on the beach. This detector has incredible depth capability. It's completely waterproof. You can actually dive with this unit, so you don't have to worry about if you're in the water and you know, you get knocked over or goes under the surf. You don't have to be concerned that it's going to damage anything. The headphones are totally waterproof, as well as the control box. Now, the control box, you can completely detach it from the rod, and you can hip mount it using some type of belt or your own belt, or you can purchase these web belts, and you can put it around your waist, strap it around your neck, around your shoulder, whichever is more comfortable for you. I also like to use a coil stabilizer. What this does, if you've ever done any saltwater hunting, the motion of the water can sometimes cause the coil to flip up and down. This stabilizer, you can adjust it, and it keeps the coil stable, and so you don't have to keep flipping it back down. I also prefer a coil cover. Coil cover obviously protects the coil from scratches and you know, if you're going to scrape it on rocks or whatever. You can also use your land detector on the beach. It's not advisable to put it in the water because it is not a waterproof unit. It is waterproofed up to the ID meter, if your detector has a meter, or the control box. The coil itself is totally waterproof, so you can at least go down to the shoreline and search around the wet sand. And you know, a pair of headphones on the beach is advisable too. You know, if it's a windy day, you know, you get people screaming at you and the surf and all that. You know, you want to be able to hit those really deep targets. So how are you gonna retrieve your targets? Well, on the beach in the sand, just a plain old sand scoop. They come in many styles, sizes. Some of them have long poles on them, so if you're like Joe doesn't like to bend down, so he has one of those ones on a handle. This particular one is metal, obviously, and just scoop up the sand, shake it out. Your target should be left right inside your bucket. The plastic ones, they make plastic ones that you can, and those are good because you can actually recoil right over it when you have a, when you scoop up a bunch of sand, and to see if you picked up the target with the scoop. Next, a nice digging tool, strong, sturdy, because if you're on a rocky beach, they're great for prying up the rocks to get underneath the rocks. That's where a lot of the targets are hidden, right under the rocks, and it has a long blade on it, so you can lift up those heavy rocks and scoop out a lot of sand at the same time. Now, while you're in the water, you're going to need a long-handled water scoop. As you can see, it's very sturdy, and that's what you want. You want something that you can, with a nice sturdy footplate also, so you can actually, when you step on it to retrieve your go after your target, it's going to have some weight behind it so you can get right down into there. And then you just scoop it up and shake it out, and your target should be right in the bucket. And a wide bucket is advisable too, so you don't have to keep scooping, because some of these targets are deep, especially in the water, and you want to be able to get it out, as quickly as possible. So a wide bucket, you can get a lot of material with it at once. Now, if you like to go hunting, water hunting in the winter or in the cold weather, you can get yourselves a pair of these waterproof gloves. They, when you put them on, they go right up to your shoulder, and you use the rope, go around your neck, and that'll hold them up. What you want to do, though, is put a thin pair of gloves underneath them, because these themselves, they won't keep you very warm. If you put a pair of cloth gloves underneath, it'll help keep you warm and dry, and that's what you want to do. And when you're in the water and you do get a target, you need some place to put it. Some type of a bag. You can get a mesh bag or any type of a bag, or something that has a drawstring on it so you can keep it closed, and just attach it on you somewhere on the outside or the inside, and so you don't lose your finds. You wouldn't want to have to pull up a nice carat diamond ring and think you put it in your pocket, and next thing you know it's gone. So if you have something to put it in, it'll keep it nice and safe for you. Now, the last piece of equipment, and this equipment is optional, but we like to use them around here because of it helps you out a lot. What this is a floating screen sifter. You have a clip and a rope attached to a clip, and you attach the clip to somewhere in your body, and when you're in the shallow water, it follows you along. And what you do is, when you scoop out the sand to get at your target, you just dump it onto the screen, and the screen will sit below the water line, and that filters out all the sand and small particles of debris, and your target will be sitting right there for you. Now, it's constructed of 4-inch PVC tubing. The size here is optional. You can make it any dimension you want, really. And then what you have is a 1/2-inch chicken wire, and make some kind of a frame like this wooden frame, and just tack it on, staple it on to the frame onto the chicken wire, and then somehow attach the basket itself, the wooden frame with the chicken wire, on the inside of your PVC tubing. And like I said, it's really comes in handy. instead of standing there and shaking out your scoop, just dump it in. What some of us like to do is we go out and we get some targets and we just keep dumping it in, and maybe every so often we'll check to see what's there. It's not something you have to do right away. This is really very easily constructed. Just PVC with the special PVC glue, and cut it to your dimensions, put it together, let it set for a while, and there you go. Well, I hope we give you some ideas on various types of equipment used on the beach and in the water. If you've never experienced water hunting before, you know, some of these ideas might come in useful for you. But whatever, you just make sure you have the right equipment. Safety is always a big thing when you're in the water. Be constantly aware of your surroundings, know who's around you, and don't venture out too deep. We'll get into the actual, you know, how to hunt in the water coming up pretty soon. But for now, this is Bob, and good luck, happy hunting.
Hey, Bob, what do you say we go down to some of the local beaches here and do some actual treasure hunting?
That sounds like a great idea, Joe. It's almost low tide. Let's go.
Bob, how about some safety tips for us while we're hunting in the shallow water?
Well, one thing I try to do, Joe, is to hunt in a straight line parallel to the shore. This way I can occasionally glance out towards the ocean to see if there's a big wave headed my way, or to see if I'm about to bump into anybody.
Yeah, which could turn out to be an awkward and dangerous situation with all that equipment on.
Use the same technique in the water when it comes to sweep speed, overlapping, and target pinpointing as you would on the land. The only difference is you don't have to be as accurate pinpointing because of the wide bucket scoop. Once you feel you've pinpointed your target, keep your coil directly over it. Bring your scoop right to the back edge of the coil and angle it downward. Give it a firm push into the ground and tilt the scoop backward. This prevents the target from possibly falling out. Then sift the sand out of the bucket and reach in and grab your target. That's all there is to it.
This upcoming find was really a plus for the video because it almost didn't happen. As we were walking to try another spot, I kept detecting, and I got this faint signal which made me believe it was a deep target. At this point, Joe, I was really hoping for something old and gold.
Bobby, I think I saw it before you did when I zoomed in on the bucket. There it is.
As it turned out, it's a 10-karat gold class ring from a nearby high school, and the year on it is 1961, and there are initials engraved in it. Joe, maybe someday when we have the time, we could track down the owner and return it to her. We've discovered that many targets recovered from salt water were at ankle to knee-deep depths. This is because most activity in the water occurs within a few yards from the shoreline. So when I'm wearing my chest waders, I don't have to worry about venturing out too deep and possibly getting my waders filled with water as a result of losing my balance or from a big wave.
Some beach hunters will avoid hunting in rocky areas, but when you see them exposed like they are here at low tide, it should be a signal to go and grab your detector. A good way to hunt the rocks is slow and steady, keeping your coil as close to the ground as possible. This is for maximum depth penetration. You should also dig all signals because the rocks and the salt could cause some false signals.
We should also mention that targets on the beach can get moved around constantly due to the influence of the tides or from violent storms. But keep in mind, the targets will get moved around everywhere on the beach after a violent wind and tide event. But this is good for the beach hunter because those once deeply buried targets could now be on or near the surface. One of the best times for beach and water hunting is during the full moon, which is also known as the moontide. When these occur, the tide is much lower than it normally would be. More sand is removed from the shoreline, bringing the deeper targets closer to the surface. Other conditions to look out for are cutouts and tidal pools. Cutouts appear when the shoreline erodes, leaving a relatively sheer wall at the shoreline. Remember to run your detector along the walls of the cutout. You'll be surprised at how many targets are there. And if you should notice small shallow bodies of water on the beach, these are called tidal pools. They're worth detecting because they tend to trap targets. The shallow water hunter should be on the lookout for sandbars in the water because they trap targets. You also may find targets of the same size and weight concentrated in one area, sometimes in a straight line or pocket. This is called a trough. Since troughs are difficult to locate, take your time and work them hard.
Today we're at one of the local beaches that we've noticed has been really packed the past week or so because of the hot weather we've been having. It's kind of an overcast day today, so the beach is pretty much deserted. We've never really actually seen anybody hunt the water, so we decided to give it a shot, and we'll see what we can find. Unfortunately, at this beach, we were plagued with the dreaded hot rock. Hot rocks are highly mineralized rocks that sound like good targets. We had to dig quite a few of them before we come up with this next keeper. Well, the only thing we come up with here today is this beautiful, big, sterling silver turquoise ring with, it looks like some kind of clear stone. I doubt if it's a real diamond, but nonetheless, it's still a pretty ring. Some days you never know. Some days you get lucky. Today just wasn't the day for this place. But some may say that that's a good find, and we agree. Here we are at a freshwater site that was popular with the servicemen from a local Air Force base back in the 1930s and 40s. It's still being used today, very popular with the locals, so let's go hunt. The main difference between saltwater and freshwater hunting is the fact that targets will be in the same general area that they were first lost. You don't have the influence of the tides and the constant shifting of the sand as you do in saltwater. Depending on the size and weight of a target, it will sink to a certain depth and remain there.
Caution must be taken when hunting in freshwater sites too. The bottoms of some lakes and ponds can drop off suddenly without warning. After hunting the same lake or pond a few times, you'll quickly learn if indeed there is a drop-off at that spot.
Freshwater hunting for me is just as exciting as saltwater hunting, because the way I look at it, gold is where you find it. I thought at first this object was a small gold coin, but after I picked it up, I saw that it was a 14-karat gold St. Christopher medal, and that works for me. Gold is good. Summertime, hot days and crowded beaches. All this adds up to a potential treasure trove. The more crowded beaches will generally yield the most treasure. It's easy to see on this beach, with all the activity going on, how easy it can be for items to get lost. Beaches still in use, whether they be ocean or freshwater, aren't the only places to find treasure.
That's right, Bob. A suggestion is to research old swimming holes of the past. Your local library is a great place to start. Here you can look through old issues of newspapers kept on microfilm, or old town history books, and of course maps. Most libraries are well stocked with these sources of information. Don't forget the elders of the community. They love to talk about the past, and they could give you some leads to great old sites.
And Joe, when you do get to an old site and it's overgrown and doesn't look like a beach anymore, don't get discouraged. There's still treasure to be found underneath all that overgrowth, which can be difficult to dig through, but it's worth the time and effort.
It's simply amazing how much treasure there is waiting to be found out there, Bob.
Right, Joe. And most of what is shown here was found either in the water or on the beach. I do love to land hunt too, but my passion is water hunting. I never lose the thrill of seeing a piece of gold glittering in my water scoop.
Yeah, silver's great too.
Yeah, if jewelry is what you're after, beach and water hunting is the way to go.
That must be why you say beach and water hunting is the last frontier of treasure hunting.
There's a lot of lost jewelry to be found in the water, and the best part is it's constantly being replenished.
Well, you certainly have a well-stocked display case that you keep here in your place of business.
I love to talk treasure hunting, and when my customers come in, it makes for a good center of conversation.
I'll bet there's some days you don't get all your work done.
That's true. I've actually got people interested in the hobby by talking about some of the finds I've made.
That's because most people love a good treasure tale.
Especially when they're all true, Joe. So don't just sit there. Go grab your detector and head for the beach and get that gold.
And the silver too. Well, that wraps it up for our video guide to beach and water hunting. We hope you found it entertaining and maybe even picked up a tip or two.
We hope you had as much fun watching it as we did putting it together. Until next time,
Reach for the beach
and slide with the tide.
And as always, happy hunting!
Hey, Joe, that beach across the water, isn't that the one we saw the other day?
Yeah, it looked like it was really packed, too.
Yeah, it really did. Hey, what do you say we give that one a try?
Let's go.
Men on a dead man's chest. Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. Drinking the devil, be done for the rest. Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. The mate was fixed by the boatswain's pike. The boatswain brained with a marlin spike. And Cookie's throat was marked belike. It had been gripped by fingers 10. There they lay, all the dead men, like break of day in a boozing pen. Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. 15 men of a whole ship's list. Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. Dead and be damned and the rest gone whist. Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. The skipper lay with his knob in gore, where Scullion's axe his cheek had shore. And Scullion he was stabbed times 4. There he lay in the soggy skies, dripped all day in upstaring eyes at murk sunset and a foul surprise. Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. 15 men of them stiff and stark. Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. 10 of the crew had the murder mark. Yo ho ho.
Buried pirate treasure. Not as far-fetched as it may seem. For many of us involved in this fascinating hobby of metal detecting, dream of one day finding our own pirate's treasure. Hi, I'm Bob Afaro.
Hi, I'm Joe Cadero.
And I'm Dutch Moranis.
Welcome to a video guide to land hunting. Due to the success of our last video, a video guide to beach and water hunting, we've had many requests to do one on land hunting techniques. Whether you're a veteran detectorist or you're new to the hobby, we're sure you'll enjoy the show.
Let's get started.
Here I am on one of the oldest streets in our downtown historic district. We had observed the city employees digging up the pavement over the past week. Upon inquiry at the Department of Public Works, we found out that the asphalt from the entire street was going to be removed so the street could be repaved with cobblestone. We took this as a golden opportunity to discover treasures which had been lost and covered over for at least the last 80 years.
I decided to start detecting here because the sidewalk and lamppost are only on this side. My logic is that people would lose items as they walk down the street. This upcoming find will attest to that theory.
Hold on, there's some junk I gotta get rid of first. A good tip to remember is to always keep your detector on until you get back to your car. I always check the access to and from the location I am detecting. In this situation, we had to walk down a sidewalk to get back to our vehicles. I found this target in an old granite-edged flower bed, not 25 feet from our cars. If I had turned off my detector at the site, I would have walked right by this great find. One other suggestion, I always carry a small jar filled with olive oil when I go detecting. You may notice that finds which are buried in acidic soil tend to deteriorate when they hit the air. Dropping them in olive oil tends to stabilize them. Just remember, if you find a coin or item which you believe has significant value, do not put it in anything. Bring it to a professional to have it cleaned or stabilized.
Now's a good time to talk about some equipment.
Good idea, Joe. The most important piece of equipment is, of course, your metal detector. Your best bet is to visit your local dealer where you can physically handle various detectors. This will allow you to find a detector that fits into your price range and meets your needs. Your next immediate purchase should be a coil cover and a good set of headphones. A set of headphones with the full air cups and not the Walkman style are highly recommended.
Don't forget, Bob, they also can help keep your ears warm in the winter.
That's true, Joe, especially here in the Northeast. Oh, and don't forget to bring along an extra set of batteries.
Hey guys, all this talk about detectors, but how are you going to get the stuff out of the ground? Digging tools come in all different sizes, but the most important thing is to find one specifically designed for metal detecting. Experience has taught us to stay away from those run-of-the-mill gardening trowels. Also available in the market are these multi-purpose plug cutters and digger combo units. As you'll see, they have a serrated edge to cut the perfect plug and also to easily cut through small and medium-sized roots. Also useful in the field is to have a treasure trash apron. As you can see, one side can be used to store your good finds, while the other is used to store your trash until you have the opportunity to properly dispose of it. Remember, removing trash from the field as you go not only makes sure that your next visit to that site is more fruitful, but it also sheds a more positive light on this great hobby. Another great tool is a pinpointer. It makes fast work of recovering those ever-elusive targets in the hole. You also may want to carry a pouch. It's a great spot to carry both your digging tools and your pinpointer. It can also provide additional storage for trash until you get out of the field. Finally, I like to carry a ground cloth. It's a great place to pile the dirt, and it also keeps those manicured lawns clean.
Guys, let's not forget an inexpensive pair of gardening gloves. They can come in handy by preventing minor cuts and also preventing exposure to poisonous plants.
The next three items can be considered safety issues more than they are actual equipment, but they shouldn't be discounted. The first thing is a basic first aid kit. Whether it's homemade or purchased from a store, it's a good thing to have in the car. The next thing is a hunting buddy. It's always fun to go detecting with someone else to share your finds, and also in case of an emergency. What we like to do is each of us has a walkie-talkie, and we can share our discoveries and also keep in contact in case something happens.
You know, Joe, I was pretty excited when you called me on the walkie-talkie to tell me about that very deep Indian scent you pulled out from that old homestead.
And speaking of that old homestead, we had found out that possibly a skirmish occurred there between the British and the colonists during the Revolutionary War. But time was of the essence in getting out to this site, as our research indicated the property had recently been donated to the town, and their intention is to develop this historic location into a public library.
forever paving over the treasures buried beneath.
This next find sounded a little iffy and registered only 2 inches on the meter, but I decided to dig it anyway, and I'm glad I did, because it turned out to be this walking Liberty half in excellent condition. It was almost completely on its edge, right next to an old rusty nail. Sometimes it pays to dig those iffy signals.
This next find confirms our research that the site was active during the Revolutionary War.
What do you got?
Another very old button.
Wow.
One of my favorite areas to hunt at these old sites is around old trees. This next find didn't let me down. Let's take a minute to go over the proper technique for target retrieval and cutting a plug.
Bob, did you say cutting a rug?
No, Dutch. Cut a plug. This is a video guide to land hunting, not ballroom dancing.
Sorry, guys.
I'd like to demonstrate now how to cut a nice, neat plug. And when I'm done, it should look like I wasn't even here. What helps is to have a good, sturdy, sharp digging tool. This makes the cutting quick and easy. Okay. You want to cut in a circular motion around your target. lift the plug off the ground and place it on a ground cloth. This makes it real easy to help find a target once you remove it from the ground. Now, assuming we have a target and you found it, what you're going to do, put the plug aside, pick up your ground cloth and sift the loose dirt back into the hole. Take your plug, place it neatly over the hole, stand up and stamp it down. As you can see, very little traces of anything being dug here.
You know, guys, I'm glad we just went over the proper technique for cutting a plug.
Why, Dutch? What's up?
Well, I've managed to arrange permission for us to detect the professionally landscaped grounds of an old whaling captain's house. In fact, this property dates back to the mid-1800s, and from what I understand, it's had some pretty significant owners and guests. Well, don't just take my word for it. Let's go hear it from the owner himself.
Let's go. Today we're at a seaside community in southeastern Massachusetts, and we're at the home of Captain James K. Turner. And the present owner is Max Isaacson. And Max, we'd like to thank you, first of all, for allowing us onto the property. And could you please give us a brief history on the property?
Captain James K. Turner was a whaleboat captain, and he had the house constructed back in 1857, and he actually never lived in the home. Another whaleboat captain bought it from him. A lawyer bought the home. He was actually a judge. Him and his wife were sailing into the harbor, and his wife absolutely fell in love with the home. That was Mr. and Mrs. Tappan. And they bought the home in 1871, and they lived here for about 30 years. During that time, they had Mark Twain stay here. There was a few other significant people who stayed here, and here we are now.
Here we are now. And it sounds like, from what you just said, this house has a considerable history behind it, and we're really eager to get started, and really excited about the potential of what we might find laying beneath the ground here. Max, thank you very much, and we'll hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's like the same. Sounds like a good signal here. $1946 wheat penny.
Joe, I got another here. 4.5 inches down. It's coming up in the foil range, but never know. Gold lies in foil, right? Looks like a nameplate or something. Some sort of a nameplate. We're going to have to clean it up, but definitely has lettering on it.
I see silver.
What is it?
It's 1935 Mercury dime.
That's a nice find, Joe.
Thank you, sir.
Looks like an old military button. It's got an eagle on the front. It's in pretty good shape. Just needs some cleaning. Oh, hold on one sec. Getting a tone in the silver range, about 3.5 to 4 inches deep. But before the days of air conditioning, people had to sit under a tree to get some shade and some relief from the hot sun. So it's always a good spot to check. It's a well-worn Mercury dime. I'm getting another good tone. Could always be more of the same metal, but you never know until you dig, right? Oh, don't even have to dig anymore, Joe. I can tell you that I just split an Indian head penny right in half. Let's go looking for the other side now. You know, Joe, looking at it closer, I don't think I split a penny in half. I think this might have been split in half to be used as a half cent. The break is perfectly clean. I'm showing signs of oxidation on the edge, so it's not something I just did. And it appears to be half a penny. Joe, I don't know what to tell you, but this detecting under the old trees sure seems to be paying off. Got another beautiful tone here.
Sounds good.
Showing in the penny dime range with okay depth. Let's give this one a shot. Let me just mark it here and get ready. Well, Joe, I don't know what to tell you, but we knew this site went back a ways, and these old trees were used for recreation in more ways than one.
Absolutely.
Could have been the place that someone sat under to take a break, or could have been the target for a musket ball.
Oh my God.
This is my first of this size, Joe, so it's a pretty special day for me.
Yeehaw!
Well, so far so good. We found quite a few Wheaties, and of course, you know, when there's Wheaties around, there's apt to be silver. Dutch, you found a Merc?
Yeah, I was lucky enough on one of my last targets to pull out what cleaned up to be a 1943 Mercury dime in all right shape. It's a little worn though.
Hey, silver is good though. I happened to pull out a Merc myself, 1935, pretty worn piece.
Well, Mercs and Wheaties, we're getting back there in time. We should hopefully be hitting the 1800 mark pretty soon.
Well, you know, Bob, it's funny you mention that. With some of the, I guess you classify as relic items that came up, it's possible we've done that. This appears to be some sort of a metal tag, which would have been nailed onto a box or something else. We don't quite know yet.
Dutch, what's the name that we think that is embossed on it?
So far, from the letters I've cleaned up, it may say Ernestina. And
Ernestina is?
The Ernestina was an old cargo ship, which eventually became a trash ship from the mid to late 1800s, which is still in existence today, actually in this historic seaport. It's used for a lot of tall ship sails and things of that nature, but it appears this may have come from the Ernestina from quite a while ago.
Simply amazing.
It certainly would be pretty much a monumental find in this area, only because of what you just said, that the Ernestina is docked in the nearby harbor here. And it'd be interesting to find out if indeed it is from the Ernestina. Maybe we can take a walk down there sometime and see if anybody on the ship might have some information leading to the identification of it.
Not a bad idea, Bob. If nothing else, it'll be an interesting piece to add to the collection of the homeowner. You know, he's been interested in researching what's out on his property and the history of his property, and it definitely is a piece for him to talk about.
Absolutely.
See, you got an interesting button there.
Yeah, it looks like it might be a Type 3 military button. Needs to be cleaned up a little more, but we have an eagle on the front, what appears to be stars going around the side, and the back piece, which would have had the loop, is missing, indicating that it was one piece that fit in there, and that stays consistent with the Type 3 button.
Well, Bob, I think it's your turn to get out there and find some stuff. What do you say?
After seeing what some of the stuff you guys come up with, I'm eager to get going out there myself. I just hope I have better luck than you guys.
Oh, I hope so too.
Good luck, Bob.
You're doing really good. Thanks, guys. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm using a slow sweep speed technique and overlapping about 50%. In an area like this, you want to try to not to miss much ground if possible. Okay, Joe, this is reading up in the penny dime range. See what we got for depth. Down about 4.5, 5 inches. Okay, let's see what we bring up. Well, looks like we brought it out. Sometimes I use this technique to pinpoint the target once it's out of the ground in a pile of dirt. Just grab a handful and run it over the coil, and we have a coin. We have a, looks like a Wheatie. Definitely a Wheatie. Kind of still dirty to get a date off it, but nonetheless, it's a Wheatie. There we go. We have a Mercury dime. $1941. Due to the fact that we're pretty much only finding Mercs and Wheaties, we came to the conclusion that the backyard had been landscaped over the years. After talking with the homeowner, he was fairly certain that the front yard was still in its original state. Our assumptions were correct, as you'll see by these upcoming finds. In keeping consistent with what we said before, hunting around old trees pays off. Money may not grow on trees, but it sure must be falling off of them.
Never overlook an old tree stump, especially one as big as this. Even though the tree is gone, the treasure beneath where it once stood is still there.
In the days of yesteryear, this paved driveway would have been all dirt. Since most people did not change the width of their driveways when they paved over them, it's always a good idea to detect along the edges.
Thank you for watching this production of New Bay Videos. We hope you found it entertaining and we gave you some ideas on how to improve your detecting skills. So until next time, I'm Dutch Moranis for Bob Afero and Joe Cadero. So keep your coil to the soil.
You dig her in the dirt.
And as always, treasure is where you find it.
Happy hunting.
You know, guys, I think we had some amazing finds in this video. That's what we got.
Absolutely. I think Joe's triple Merc find really made our day that day.
Oh, anytime you find 3 silver Mercs in the same spot in the same day, that's something.
That was unbelievable.
Absolutely.
That bob of half that you pulled up there, Dutch, that was pretty sweet.
Tell you, when it was shining coming out of the ground, I sure liked it.
Pretty coin.
I still think that Bob's Walk and Live is the prettiest coin of the video. The detail on that coin is fabulous.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Bye.